Let's go, people! Let's go! It's Prognosis Negative time!
Hi, this is Eric.
And this is Isaac.
And welcome back. It is, yet again, Prognosis Negative, episode 52, Midnight in Paris.
I mean, this is unbelievable. There's no city like this in the world.
You're in love with a fantasy.
I'm in love with you.
What are you doing here? Dad's here on business, and we just decided to freeload along.
Oh, that's great. We can spend some time together.
I think we have a lot of commitments, but I'm sure it's... Well,
What?
If I'm not mistaken, Rodin's work was influenced by his wife, Camille.
Rose was the one.
No, he was never married to Rose.
I hope you're not going to be as antisocial tomorrow.
I'm not quite as taken with him as you are. I mean, he's a pseudo-intellectual.
Slightly more tannic than the 59. I prefer a smoky feeling. Carol and I are going to go dancing.
Dancing?
We heard of a great place. Interested?
No. I don't want to be a killjoy, but I need to get a little fresh air.
What time did you get in last night?
Not that late. Yeah, I'll probably end up going on another little hike tonight.
Where'd Gil run off to?
I've been walking around Paris.
Where do you think Gil goes every night?
He walks and gets ideas.
Why are you so dressed up?
I was just doing a little writing.
You dress up and put on cologne to write?
Because you know how I think better in the shower and I get the positive ions going in there?
I had a private detective follow him.
And what happened?
I don't know. The detective agency says the detective is missing.
I'm in a very perplexing situation.
So, I believe this is your first time, Isaac, seeing any Woody Allen film. Is that correct?
I believe you are correct. This is my first Woody Allen picture, and oh boy, it's definitely setting some high standards.
And I don't know if you remember more than I do, because I don't remember much, but the reason this even became a thought or idea in my head to do this movie in general, not just because you hadn't seen any Woody Allen, but we were having some conversation offline some months ago, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but something in the conversation sparked a memory of a certain key element of this movie. And I had said way back then, oh, like Midnight in Paris, like you should see that, or, you know, something. Do you have any recollection of what that conversation was about, or what sparked that for me to even bring that up before? Or do you even recall that?
The easiest answer is I don't remember, but obviously could go back and search our, long thread of messages.
Not necessary,
of course.
But, and it might have been in voice too. I don't know if it was in messages.
And that is probably where I will begin, because I believe, because I just recently, because call me a little bit too full of himself and a little bit of an egotist and an egomaniac, potentially, who loves to hear the sound of his own voice, or maybe just because I enjoy listening to your guys' conversations again. But I did go back and listen to, one of my favorite episodes of yours, which is the Night of the Comet, and in that, I believe you had questioned, and this may go back to our first conversation we had back in 2020 for that Godzilla commentary we did, where one of the first things you heard me ever say was, "I can't take all this neo 80s fetishization. Like, I'm so anti-80s fetishization in the new tens. Like, I'm done with this stuff. Like, it needs to stop." And I think that was brought up in Night of the Comet, discussion that we had, and you used the word pseudo intellectual, and this movie has pseudo intellectual in it. So I don't know if that's where your brain was going with that.
No, but I very much remember our conversations about 80s fetishization and
Yep.
how it was practically one of our first conversations ever. I very much remember that.
Excellent.
And I always think about it, and it comes up in our other movie review podcasts every time me or Sean makes the reference of, there was a 50s fetishization, and then it's like the 80s one. And when Gen X grew up, it was all 50s, not all, but that was the big thing. And it was for over a decade of being focused on the 50s, like when the boomers were making popular movies in the 80s, especially, and late 70s. But it's just funny you brought that up, because I just happened to watch a new release 80s fetishization movie earlier today. It's part of this series of streaming films on Netflix called Fear Street.
Yep.
And they had released 3 almost simultaneously or within months of each other back in 21. And then they just released the new one today or yesterday called Fear Street Prom Queen.
Coincidence.
And yeah, it takes place in 88. And the whole movie is, of course, leaning hard into the 80s fetishization. But anyway, but no, not that in particular. However, it was something in a conversation we were having some months ago, and it was about experiencing other times, or how people think that the older times things were always like more difficult, or things seem to be easier and looser in the present day. And there was something about, but everyone's thought that since throughout time. How is that even possible?
Yeah.
Like, were things progressively incredibly more difficult? Like the further you go back in generations, but everybody's thought this like over and over again. It doesn't make any sense. It's like a paradox. And also something in a previous conversation sparked like being able to speak to like historical figures. But see, I don't remember anything else from the conversation, but I know those were like the germs of the idea that made me bring it up when I did. I just don't know what else we were talking about at the time.
We'll figure it out at some point, but I don't know if you were leading me down the road to that. I mean, I assume you're going to suggest this for me to watch, which I would obviously say yes to, and I appreciate you doing so. Yeah, I don't think you were leading me down the road of, hey, I have this in mind, so I'm gonna, use clever metaphors, or at least, bring this up to him, and he has no idea. You're like cackling like a maniacal maniac of just like he has no idea. It's like, yeah, I did have no idea.
So just a little bit more background for you, being new to Woody Allen.
Yep.
So Woody Allen directed, wrote, and released in theaters at least one movie per year from like the mid to late 70s all the way up until when he got canceled. And I can't remember if that was 2020 or 2021, but he had like and sometimes he had 2 releases in one year along the way.
That's impressive. Holy smokes.
So obviously it's a huge volume of work. Most consider like his prime, like his best work, all concentrated in a particular period. Most people consider that the late 70s and early 80s, where he just like everything was gold. And then there was times where even though he had new films, they weren't as recognized or liked or almost considered filler amongst the Woody Allen canon. And he would have these dry spells where even though he was coming out with new movies, he kind of, people would say like, oh, he's kind of lost it, or he's become derivative of himself, or he gets through a dry spell. So this movie represents one of the many times where when it came out, people were like, Woody's back. Like, he's gone through a dry spell and he's back.
I was wondering that.
He's had multiple of those. like along the way. And this was perhaps his biggest, he's back. Like this is his best movie, since the early 80s or whatever. So this one made a big splash. It also happens to be the highest grossing film he ever had, not adjusted for inflation. And it was an absolutely mega box office success in terms of making your money back. Reportedly the film cost $17 million to make, which most all his movies are really inexpensive.
I have a question
compared to other movies. Other contemporary movies.
Of course.
But reportedly a budget of $17 million and grossing $151. That's a success in anybody's book. And his highest grossing film. And it was also his first movie at the time. Like, it had been several years since he had a movie that got so many nominations from the Academy. So, a lot going on there.
Much to dissect from that. I was going to ask, that was one of my first questions, and you've already, said how much this made. I assume, if maybe this isn't the, I don't want to say bog standard. Maybe that's the wrong way of putting it, but because they're not obviously all the same, and some people might boil them down. Every Woody Allen movie is the same. I have no idea, but I assume most of his budgets are fairly like under 100 million, right? Like if not even under 10 million potentially. I mean, he probably started with peanuts for his like very first film, whatever that may be.
Obviously, his early movies were at a different time when practically all movies were under 8 mil. But I doubt he has hardly any movies, if any, that are over 20 mil ever. Like, I don't think there's any that are over that.
And I assume that they mostly make their budgets back because, smaller films, smaller film budgets, and if they're popular, higher returns.
Yes, however, he definitely had releases, especially towards the end of his career, and especially getting canceled doesn't help.
It certainly doesn't.
But in his later career, he definitely has some films that hardly anyone watched.
I see. Okay.
And they weren't necessarily bad. It's just they didn't have word of mouth. People weren't, in prior decades, people would watch anything, with the Woody Allen name on it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't necessarily the case, like in the last 25 years or so. Just because it said Woody Allen doesn't mean people would run out. And just because the movie didn't make money doesn't mean it was bad. It just didn't get buzz or good word of mouth.
Let me ask you this. Sorry for all the preamble before we, actually get to the meat at hand, the dinner, the lunch, the meal at hand, pardon me. Do you think now if say he somehow is able to, fight against, or I say he probably has, pardon me, but hear me out. Say he does like make another film. He probably has. I'm sorry. I'm just like, this is a metaphor. Say he has made a film. Do you think that similar to a lot of like what say Scorsese has been doing with his films, instead of just putting them out in the theater and he is adapted, do you think potentially that a streaming service is where he would and his films would shine currently?
I don't know, but that's actually what was happening just before he got canceled.
Interesting. Okay.
A few years before he got canceled, he had this exclusive deal with Prime that his next 6 releases would go straight to Prime.
Interesting.
And he was like in the middle of that deal when he got canceled. And so then he got dropped and then they didn't complete the 6.
Okay.
But the first thing he did with Prime, I can't remember what it was called right now, but what they did was, it was sort of like what they did to Green Mile, the Stephen King novel, when it was published. The book was initially published in like 4 or 6 separate novellas that were released several months apart from each other. and eventually it made the entire book. His first release with Prime, I can't remember the name, but I remember it featured Miley Cyrus acting in it, and it was like a 4 or 6 part, and each part was like 30 to 40 minutes or maybe 30 minutes.
Yep.
And I watched it. I loved it. I mean, it wasn't the greatest thing ever, but it literally just felt like a standard Woody Allen movie that had been divided into 4 or 6 parts, whatever it was. So that was the first one, and then the rest were the next couple. They were like standard Woody Allen films that just released straight on Prime.
Another thing to at least, go back to a point you had made with his career and his filmography. Again, metaphorically speaking, would you say it to a point where I guess it ended or is on hiatus, whatever you want to call it? You think it's a little similar as well to how people think of the Simpsons run, where they had the golden years and then they kind of started dwindling and then they just existed, like as you said, like that period where they
a little bit, but not the best comparison, just because
perhaps not.
The Simpsons has just sort of been on, in terms of the zeitgeist, it's just been on autopilot, ever since the Simpsons motion picture came out.
Yep.
I feel like the series has been on autopilot. Like, I'm sure there's great episodes here and there. I know there are that came out after the movie.
Yep.
But they're not enough to get into the zeitgeist.
Of course.
Whereas Woody, yes, faded into the background, but he had multiple films spread out during his lean years where he would have an impactful movie like this that would just pop out here and there. But movies that would get into the zeitgeist that would get nominated for Best Picture. Because, he has others in his later career besides this one that he's back.
Oh yeah, one of those like he's shout from the rafters, he's back, even though he's been here for years.
Another thing of note is that most of his movies, the first 2/3 or 3/4 of his career, most of them were either set in New York City, or like the East Coast.
No, he's
by and large.
So,
But then in the last 25 years, or the first 20 years of the millennium, he went through these different phases where he was basically making a bunch of movies in different parts of Europe. Like he went through like a Spanish phase, Italy, and obviously France. And that was because during like post year 2000, a lot of times it was those European markets that would fund his movies. Plus he would, enjoy staying over there, vacationing, living in Europe.
Oh yeah, of course.
So, a whole bunch of like European tour movies in the and post year 2000, and this is obviously part of that.
This is so disrespectful for me to say, but it's like a Hallmark Channel movie where it's like, we're going to X country, like whatever country it is instead, and that's all it is, and it's whitewashed or something like that. But this is not white. Well, at least I don't think it is. But like this, I feel like this is pretty faithful. Hopefully, I don't know, to Paris, at least, not like appropriating it in any way. Whereas those, I think, tend to like, silently appropriate without realizing it.
Well, yeah, one of the many fun facts about this movie, the hotel that engaged couple are staying in the movie, that is the actual hotel that Woody Allen was living in while making the movie.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that.
All right, well, I think enough preamble for now. That's all I have for Woody Allen stuff. Let's begin with the film proper.
Yeah, well, before we even get down into different certain scenes, etc., generally, what did you think?
Yeah, initial thoughts. Yeah, of course. You're absolutely right.
Broad strokes. First Woody Allen film. What sticks out at you? What do you think maybe may be some of his signature style, just basing it off this one movie.
Boy, I completely understand why you immediately thought that I would like these films, or at least like this film, or a Woody Allen film, excuse me, because...
Although, to be fair, I've always thought Caleb would really like these films, and he's tried, and they have not stuck.
Yep. Yeah, he's not reciprocal to them. Yeah, wow. Okay, here's my first stupid allegation. Do you think he has aphantasia?
Woody Allen?
Woody Allen, sorry, yeah.
I wasn't sure if you meant Woody Allen or Caleb.
No. Yeah, I think Caleb can see.
I don't know because if anyone seems to be a really prolific artist, whether it's painting or drawing or writing poetry or filmmaking, from my point of view, it kind of seems like everyone has, not that they all have aphantasia, but even if they don't, it seems the artistic mind of whatever the vocation is, the artist seems to have a way to visualize things in their head differently from non-artists.
Yes.
Generally speaking, obviously.
Of course.
So it's hard for me to know, because I always wonder that when I read a novel by whatever author or whatever film I'm watching. I always wonder, like, the thought process in the creator's mind of like how they see it before it comes to life. But why do you ask that?
It was just a funny question that, like, we were having a conversation more about the aphantasia, and I just like, pardon me, my only intent was to just say, like, hey, who do you think has aphantasia now?
But again, it's like playing the game, like, which historical figure do you think was on the spectrum?
Or the Myers-Briggs tests.
Yeah, or when they make those charts, what do you call it in D&D?
Oh, the alignments, the character alignments.
Yes. Yeah, so it's like playing that game. Well, like,
yes.
Who's neutral good in Star Wars, and who's chaotic good and lawful evil, etc.
Yeah,
and by the way, if anyone listening hasn't heard the term aphantasia or aphantasia, it simply means someone who, when they close their eyes, cannot visualize any type of actual images, and apparently affects a very small percentage of the human race.
So, hey, to any ladies and gentlemen, those between unaffiliated regulation listeners and comment leavers, especially you comment leavers, please write in to say, hey, I got aphantasia. And it's like, hey, we can talk to you about that.
Yeah, supposedly anywhere between 1% and 6% of worldwide population fall into that category. But anyway, moving along.
Oh, yes, my initial thoughts. So, yeah, my initial thoughts. This movie definitely made me feel like either I was looking at a mirror reflection of myself. No, I'm not that, smart and, observant of the world. I do not have the vernacular as to Mr. Allen. But I definitely had, like, a person who definitely has a lot of qualms with maybe a different location where he lives, and is able to express himself, whether it's with words or what have you with this. He's able to, whether, again, it's, surreal or not, who cares if this, like, actually happened. A movie where, it paints a good picture of somebody, experiencing exactly what he wants and then realizing, oh, you don't know what you got until it's gone, or realizing, oh, this is just cyclical, isn't it?
Okay, I think I know what you're saying, but I don't know if the audience has any idea what you're saying.
No, I there was a lot of, like, jumbled words in there for me to, like, get. Basically, yeah, no, my question is not, and this is not like a negative, but do you think was him espouting, the main character, was him espouting, the message at the end, is that normal for these films, or is it more cleverly, like, written in subtext?
Wait, does he spout the message at the end, the protagonist?
At least I thought he did. Just when he's having his when they're in the was it the 1890s or whatever it was, or during the Cove, excuse me, pardon me, I got that wrong, era, and he's like, no, I'm from the new tens, and this is, like, the golden age, or nostalgia, the whole, like, search for nostalgia that he wants to, be in this like exact time period because things were simpler in a way.
Okay, so you're saying the protagonist had this preconception at the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
He feels like, the movie is set in present day 2010, 2011, and he feels like someone who should have been alive in an earlier time.
I was born the wrong generation or the wrong year,
right?
As you've heard many people say.
So through the movie and the premise, he gets to experience this time that is basically his favorite time to reminisce on.
Exactly.
Which was the 1920s, and specifically in Paris, France. And so throughout the movie, he's getting to experience this as in real life for him. And, he loves it. But at a certain point, he becomes close to a character. And there's a lot of real life characters in this movie for those who haven't seen it. The actress's name is Marion Cotillard.
Yes.
A lot of people would recognize her as Mal in Inception.
Yep.
She plays Adriana. And at a certain point, he becomes close to her in this 1920s setting. And at a certain point late in the movie, they end up in 1890, Paris, France. And she, being of the 20s, is having that similar experience of, oh my gosh, 1890, I want to stay in 1890. This is amazing. And yes, that's when he, the protagonist, Owen Wilson, that's when he starts to realize the futility of what he's been doing himself with his reminiscing in the 20s, because he realizes, this could just go on forever. You're just never satisfied in the time in which you live in.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I think everyone's caught up now.
Yeah, especially when like the men of the Belle Epoque era were suddenly saying like, oh yeah, the men of the Renaissance, they they were. I wish we were in their time period. Yes. That's when he realizes. And I've had this personally as well, where sometimes I'm like, I just not to go backwards, but there's just times where I find life might be not hard or unsatisfying, but just you have bad days and you're like, I just don't want to be in this like present feeling of emptiness or things not going my way. I'd rather be, whether it's like a different place or a different time, I just don't want to be here because I don't want to struggle. I don't like struggling.
I think it's common, like a lot of people wish they were back in their college days, back in high school, living in their parents' house. Even though oftentimes when you're in college, you can't wait to graduate. When you're in your parents' house, you can't wait to get out of your parents' house. But later you go, man, it was so much simpler back then.
There's the looking forward to the future, looking under the horizon like Luke Skywalker, and then episode 5 comes around and it's like, stop looking out into the horizon. You're like, man, I wish things were simpler.
Yeah. So if you were to try to guess, what are elements in this film that you think you might see repeated in other Woody Allen films? Like, what do you think some of his calling cards might be? And these are broad strokes.
I do wonder if at one point if he could have made this. Oh, I think he could have. It would have been really cool if he were to have like made this in the 70s or the 80s, and Owen Wilson is played by him, because I know he also starred in, I don't know if all, but he did star in most of his movies. So, and I could see Owen Wilson playing like that. It's literally just Woody Allen like that. And that's not like a criticism. That literally is like, no, I could clearly see like, this is just an author avatar. Like, there could be almost like nobody else. It can go no other way.
Okay, we'll bank that. I will definitely say more on that in a little bit. What else do you think?
Oh, I could be wrong. Ooh, interesting. As you said, like I don't know if you would. I guess would you call Woody Allen a pseudo intellectual? I feel like he's an intelligent, of course, but
I wouldn't call him that. But I think that was the vibe that Caleb got when we sat down and discussed Annie Hall, which I think was released also on Prognosis Negative. I can't keep track. I don't know what's on Novice Elitist or this feed, but Caleb didn't say that verbatim, but he kind of got this feel like he wasn't really into the jokes and the references because it felt like pseudo-intellectual type of humor.
Yeah, where there's not I don't want to say like compensation, but he's definitely reading like what is it? He's wearing his emotions or references on his sleeve, potentially.
Talk about Woody Allen.
Yeah, Woody
Yeah,
Allen
okay.
is
Okay.
like wearing his references on his sleeve, especially in this movie where I love historical character and whatnot, but then eventually gets to the point of because I don't know if what was her name, Marian's character. I don't know if she's a real character or not, but if she was fictitious, it takes a fictitious character in this case. Or real, I don't know, to kind of get it in his head, the protagonist's head, excuse me, of like, she herself wished that, she was in an earlier time period. And then he's like,
Yeah. Practically all the characters he meets in the past are real people or were real people.
Yep.
And many of the details in the movie of their characterizations are definitely based upon notable aspects about them in their memoirs or in biographies or whatever. So yeah.
Primary sources, hopefully.
Yeah. So yes, he's not inventing their personalities. It's definitely based upon things people are aware of these notable figures from history. But anything else you think might be a repeated theme or trope in other Woody Allen films?
Adriana, by the way, is the character I was thinking of. Sorry. Okay, so him walking around, I feel like that's I enjoy walking around as well, not to take in the area, of course, but just self-reflection, introspection. I feel like Woody Allen is a very introspective guy, at least what I'm getting at from this movie. Is he's very like he thinks. He very much is like observer, and he likes to people watch. He likes to observe people, potentially sit down. Again, normal stuff that people probably do every day. I get that, but notions of how the environment works, not so much just like plants, animals, not just that, but just how systems potentially work and how he sees these different things and how they are all assembled.
So I'll try to be brief to address everything all at once.
Of course.
Because people who are already familiar with Woody Allen's films in general, and I'm guessing it's a lot of people listening to this, they don't want to be bored hearing everything they already know.
Of course.
But briefly for Isaac, yes, Woody Allen stars in many, if not most of his films as himself. And because of that, people don't even know how to separate, myself included, the real person from who he is in movies, because it seems like one and the same.
Yeah.
And so that's very common. And if he is not starring in his own movie, he almost always has a Woody Allen surrogate avatar person.
Of course.
Almost always. And people know his characters are usually like these nebbish, middle-aged to upper middle-age Jewish guys from the East Coast. And usually when people even use the term nebbish now in regular speak, they just imagine Woody Allen's persona from movies. Like they just go hand in hand in most people's minds in general. And usually the Woody Allen surrogate is usually a Jewish American actor, like in their 20s or 30s.
Yep.
And usually it seems like that person is like playing Woody Allen. Now, while Owen Wilson is definitely the Woody Allen surrogate character, there's no question about that, he's actually one of the rare examples where the character isn't Jewy and nebbish. And that's because Owen Wilson is who he is.
Yep.
And according to what I read, Woody Allen adapted the original character to more represent Owen Wilson, since he's not Jewy and he's not those types of things. So it's a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
Because usually they're very on the nose.
I personally thought he pulled it off.
A very clear example, I can't think of the actor's name, but you know him in The Social Network, or he played Lex Luthor in the Snyderverse.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yes. He's in a few Woody Allen movies, and yes, I mean, yeah, they just go hand in hand. Like, it's obviously like a youthful Woody Allen surrogate. So Woody Allen is also very known for, so there's often a couple, whether they're dating, engaged, or married, very common. There's always the in-laws and the character's parents, and they're always getting intermixed, and there's always issues, family issues, whatever. The political speak, like, oh, the potential father-in-law is like a hardcore Republican, but Owen Wilson is not. There's always those types of conversations between characters in practically every Woody Allen movie. They're always making references to like things in the day, the time that the movie comes out, and things like that. His characters, especially his protagonists, always make references to famous literary writers and artists and philosophers, and that always other filmmakers, especially of a classic period prior
reference
to.
Pool.
Yeah. So that's very standard. He'll always say something like, "Oh, it's like Dickens," or Dostoevsky, or whatever. It's always dropping references to Shakespeare, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, or composers and Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, whatever.
Speaking of which, that's another thing I want to quickly add. Music. He probably has he probably is very particular with his scores or his music.
Yeah, the style of music, like the incidental music. So these are all old jazz standards, and he has like a set of like 30 jazz standards, and he reuses many of those songs over and over in his different movies. Time and time again, and it's always this type of music, this type of jazz, like in all his movies.
Well, so far I'm a fan.
The font for the opening titles, he uses the same font in all his movies, so you always know right away exactly what this is, because he always uses the same typeface, etc., etc.
Who else does that? I'm trying to think if somebody else. There's another director that does that.
There are, but I can't think off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, let's continue. Sorry.
And yes, another thing people always note is that, again, like if you've seen Inside Out, when the principal characters are having their conversations, the in-laws, the sister-in-law, whatever, and they're having a little debate at the dinner table or whatever, or the protagonist is talking to his friends, contemporaries in a bar.
Yep.
People often relate that to like the Disney movie Inside Out, like that these characters represent different parts of Woody Allen's like internal persona, like debating with itself.
Yep.
So anyway, I've gone through most of them, but yes,
I got that connection.
You will see elements of everything I said to some degree in virtually all his movies. But anyway, here we are. Okay. So we have this couple. They're, what do you even call it? What do you call the opposite of a honeymoon? Like when you go on some type of trip or vacation before you get married?
That's a good question.
There should be a term for that.
There should be. There probably is, but I don't know it off the top of my head. So they're in Paris. Because he himself is a writer in the story in the movie. He's always romanticized, Paris, and especially in the 20s. He wants to potentially move and live in Paris at some point, but his fiance
is not really on the same page at all. She's fine visiting, but not really into it. And they keep meeting up with this friend, played by Michael Sheen, this friend named Paul, who Owen Wilson's character refers to as a pseudo-intellectual because he's sort of their informal tour guide. But every time he gives facts and things along the way when they go to a museum or wherever, it sounds like he's just repeating things like off a list, and then some of his facts may be dubious, like not sure. But for whatever reason, Rachel McAdams, the fiance, Inez, is just kind of enamored with him in a sense that she always thinks he's quite wise, interesting, and she always doubts Owen Wilson and always takes Paul's side when it comes to something. And then, one night, Owen Wilson's character gets a little tipsy, and on his way, perhaps back to the hotel, wandering around the midnight streets of Paris, he gets picked up in a circa 1920s Peugeot automobile and suddenly gets transported into the 1920s and starts meeting all these incredibly famous people who were in and around Paris in the 1920s. And so it's like a dream come true. And it is fascinating. I mean, all these different people. Like, were you aware that a lot of these figures were all hanging out with each other in Paris in the 1920s? Ernest Hemingway, Dali, oh my gosh.
Fitzgerald.
Yes, Fitzgerald and wife Zelda Fitzgerald. And perhaps one of the most interesting to me, especially, I saw this movie the first time whenever it came out on Blu-ray, which was a long time ago, and I haven't seen it really since. But a character who stuck out more to me seeing it now than ever did before was Gertrude Stein, played by Kathy Bates.
Yeah, I liked her.
She's incredibly interesting because I read up more on a lot of these characters after watching the movie again today. And of course, they're all extremely fascinating, each in their own right. But did you know that all these notable people were all hanging out and literally hanging out with each other? That's not just a function of the movie. They literally did hang out with each other just like that in these real places.
I didn't know that. That was like, I didn't know that was the truth. I didn't want to take this as, say, a time traveler of sorts, like either Doctor Who or maybe like Assassin's Creed, even though it's not time travel, but like, this character was sort of there like this whole time. Or just, I'm trying to think of like, any piece of fiction where insert like a self-inserted character or just
like Forrest Gump, like
yes. Yeah, exactly.
Those were obviously real people, but they didn't necessarily all interact or exactly in the ways depicted in the movie. But no, in this situation, they really did. Like when there's a portrait of so-and-so painted by Picasso, yes, that really happened. And he really was supposedly painting that person. It's like everything, practically every reference in the movie is based upon real life.
Yes. This is why it also would have maybe made sense to make it in the 70s as well. Not saying that he was trying to. Don't get me wrong.
He was trying to.
It's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was going to get an elderly Cary Grant to play a notable in that version in the 1970s.
Oh, that is cool. That would have been really cool. Because that you honestly could make that work. I think because let's see, 20s. 70, that's 50 years. I know your whole people only remember like the past 50 years or whatever, and that's it, or forget whatever it was. That honestly, that would have been like a shock to a lot of people's systems if that was like the thing.
Yeah, because some of these people were still alive like the actual people in the movie, some of them were still alive in the 1970s.
Yeah, that is actually pretty impressive in a way, and it almost would have been like a really good homage. And again, some directors do that when they
Yeah.
shout out their
Yeah,
favorites,
certainly.
artists or directors or just whomever.
Do you also see a connection to something I mentioned on the Best Picture podcast a couple times in the latest season that we've been doing? Because it started with Bad Girl, where I was like, man, this just feels like a Woody Allen movie, except it actually is taking place in 1930.
It was the proto Woody Allen movie.
Yeah, because Woody Allen has so many movies that take place like generally in that time period. And again, as I said on the other podcast, I'm sure it's because he was a fan. He saw all these movies probably when he was in college.
Would have had to.
I'm talking about the movies from the 30s, the 40s, etc.
Yep.
So he had to have that in his mind. And that's why I was saying on the other podcast, just like Tarantino in his modern films, that you always feel strands of movies from the 70s or culture from the 70s in any of his movies. Even if it's a movie like Hateful Eight, obviously that's not set in the 70s, but it's alluding to Westerns that were made in the 1970s. You see? So that's what Tarantino does. But Woody Allen, it seems like he's primarily capturing these slice of life and detective and like Hitchcockian thriller, mystery movies. It's like throughout his entire body of work, he's kind of referencing those types of movies from the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. And he's using the music and he's using the font. And you see what I'm saying? So, but see, I never knew that growing up watching Woody Allen films because I wasn't aware of what movies were like, especially dramas and whatnot in the 30s. I'm much more aware now.
Especially since this one's a lot more, well, at least if, maybe I'm using it improperly, but this one's a lot more meta and kind of almost poking fun at himself in a way. Like this is like putting him under the microscope. Now, I don't know if he does that in other films. Again, I'm only like going based off of this film. So if anybody wants to scream at me, go ahead. But I'm just saying.
Yes. And just, yes, he does. And another thing he does a lot, not in this movie, but in other movies, is I mentioned it when we watched 1 Hour with You. Remember in that movie?
Yep.
Like the protagonist at multiple times would like break the fourth wall and speak directly to the audience. And he would just be like, oh, you know, like, what are you going to do?
Yep.
Or, you know, this is, oh, and I was saying it was sort of like Deadpool before Deadpool. Woody Allen, especially in the 70s, would always, it was just like 1 Hour with You, where he would literally talk to you like the audience and just be like, oh shucks, you know, or that's the way it goes.
To be fair, sorry, I know this is gonna go nowhere. I'm sorry. Just to be fair, that was originally a theater thing of, I think it's either in Panto or something where they would like break the fourth
probably
wall,
in vaudeville.
That too. So anyway, sorry, I just want to make that clear of where he is coming from.
Yeah, of course. But of course, because there's a lot of vaudevillian things throughout Woody Allen's works as well. But I don't think it's because he grew up seeing vaudevillian shows, maybe now and then, but it was probably because he saw it in movies, which took it from vaudeville.
Exactly. No, yeah, everything, basically, again, everything is cyclical in a way. Like everybody's like referencing each other in a way. I wouldn't fully say that, like, I mean, okay, here, clarity. Influenced by something like Bad Girl, yes, it's not 100% the same thing because Bad Girl.
Well, this is one Woody Allen movie. Obviously, you got to watch more Woody Allen movies.
Is. Yeah, I got to watch more. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So maybe, yeah, you're absolutely right. But I definitely can see what you mean by, yeah, it's just a slice of life, and it is. And yeah, so especially with like, yeah, the fact that to get those, to answer your question earlier, to get all this primary sourced information, which again was only 90 years old at this point, which I mean is hilarious. Man, if you made this in 2020, that'd been funny. Or at least in 2020. I guess it wasn't 1920, but to again have all these characters in the same room together and again have that factual information, and have again himself inserted. You could say this is like his wet dream potentially. I'm not really too sure of like he is there. He's a self-insert character with all these other characters, and they're telling him this stuff. I could definitely see people getting annoyed. I can definitely see these people saying, "You've gone too far. You're literally just like jacking yourself off." Of like, I'm now putting all these like my literary references in here, and my avatar is like having a conversation with them, and they're praising me. People will be like, "You're out of here."
Yeah, but except this is one of those. But except you're actually describing other Woody Allen films.
See, there you go.
Where people went, okay, you're just jerking yourself off, like you've already done like 10 times.
See that? Pardon me.
But this is one of the times where people said, yes, you're doing it right this time.
As I said, now he's being meta, of course, and he's not. I don't want to say there's revisionism in a way. Like when I say revision, don't worry. I just mean like I don't know if he's belittling or saying, look at how all these people were just a-holes or something like that, or these like all these people were like scumbags, or they were all human. Maybe he's doing that. I'm not really too sure. I never really got that.
Well, anybody who's studied any of these figures know that they were all complex, flawed human beings in
Absolutely.
their own ways. So It's just telling it like it is, essentially. And again, this is like, even for me, because I'm not that familiar with all these historical figures.
Neither am I.
But this is a Cliff Notes version, basically, though, on getting an idea.
It's a good entry point. I'll say that.
For all of them, like he's distilling and encapsulating each of them, like how they are. But let me tell you some more about Kathy Bates' character, because, like I said, I did some looking up on the real people, and hers like really stood out. I mean, they all have extremely interesting lives.
Wait. Sorry, can I ask? Did she survive the Titanic?
Very funny.
Sorry, I had to go there.
I had to think, was she on the Titanic? And okay, yeah, I get it. And I was thinking about Titanic too, because I was thinking, dang, she played.
Hopefully not Titanic too, but yes,
she played at least 2 like really significant real life female characters.
Yep.
And so Gertrude Stein, I did not even know. She wrote one of the very first like real life LGBT novels of any sort.
Interesting.
And it was really a memoir about her own life. No, I'm sorry, that was a later book. But her first book of notoriety was QED, was the name of the book. And it was her describing sort of like coming out / embracing her sexuality during her college years. And that was like her big splash in writing. And it was one of the very first like openly LGBT writings of any kind, in Western literature. And not only that, but she was the one who coined the term, the lost generation.
Interesting.
So she coined the phrase, like,
okay.
And 2 of her most famous quotes from her writing, one I don't recognize, but "Rose is a rose is a rose" is one of her most famous quotes. But the other one I have heard of,
think about that for a while,
which is "There is no there." That's another one of hers.
Spelling?
There is no THERE.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, and most of her writing, whether it was poetry or memoirs or novels or essays, most of her work is focused on sexuality or not conforming to gender norms or being queer or being a lesbian, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, really, really fascinating. Really, really fascinating.
Yeah, no, I definitely, once again, yeah, Kathy Bates, great. I don't think there was a bad performance in this entire like movie, if I may say so. I think he directed everybody the way they should have been. I think everybody enjoyed. Well, I don't know that, but I definitely felt people were giving characters to these people.
And isn't it wild? Like, I mean, and this was typical through many of Woody Allen's films, like Adrian Brody, Tom Hiddleston, like the number of MCU actors, the number of like Owen Wilson has been with Adrian Brody with Lea Seydoux. Like they've all been together in Wes Anderson movies.
Yep.
Owen Wilson was with Rachel McAdams as a couple in The Wedding Crashers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Rachel McAdams has been in 4 films where she was with somebody who was traveling in time.
Isn't that something?
Like,
yeah.
It's wild. It's just wild.
But she's not been the time traveler herself, right?
Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson together in the Loki series.
Oh, spoilers! I didn't know that.
It just goes on and on. It just goes on and on.
By the way, I'll just say my joke right now. We should have had Adrian Brody as the Emperor in Dune.
Why? I want to know why.
Think hard. We talked about this offline. Think hard. This is a reference. Who does he play in this film?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild though? If Dolly would have been in that 70s.
I'm saying, like, I literally forgot that madman Jodorowsky was gonna have Dolly be the Emperor.
No, what's crazy to me is I knew Dolly was, I knew from this movie that obviously he was doing his thing in the 20s. I know from some Disney animated stuff that he was trying to work with them in the 50s, but it never came to fruition.
Oh, that would have been funny.
And then I didn't realize until the Jodorowsky Dune documentary that Dolly was still alive in the 1970s.
That's impressive.
That's absolutely nuts. Oh, and then something else about, was it Gertrude Stein?
Yep.
So, she was American Jewish, but when she was, about 30 years old, she relocated basically permanently to Paris and lived pretty much the rest of her life there. But this is the 1920s, obviously, in this movie.
You say rest of her life.
But she was an American Jew, and she remained living in Paris throughout the occupation of World War II.
Okay, thank goodness.
It's just wild. It's just wild.
Glad they didn't touch her.
Well, she had friends in high places, which helped her.
Go.
But still.
Yeah.
And weirdly, a lot of these characters in real life passed. Some of them lived into the 1970s. Many of them passed around 1946, 47. It's just, I don't know. It also makes you think of the series, and apparently I discovered, because a lot of these characters also appeared in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. But even though I only watched kind of the first season of that show a million years ago, even from the few episodes I saw that took place in the 1920s, even watching that series, I got the feel of, man, if you were alive in the 20s, all these things were happening.
Yep. Like
Pancho Villa in the Southwest in the United States, World War I, obviously.
Some civil wars.
Yeah. And so in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, Indy is doing a Forrest Gump and interacting with all these famous people.
That's the idea.
Being in all these situations. It's just dude, everything was happening in the 20s is what it feels like.
That's another good example of somebody who's self-inserted. Whatever, it's fine. It's fictitious.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Where do you want to go next? Maybe we've exhausted a lot of this already, but I know we have some more
That's
left
fine.
on the table.
First things first, I'm going to make a mid-episode retraction, and I'm going to retract my statement about pseudo-intellectualism, because apparently I'm dumber than a doornail and don't know what that means. well, I guess I literally am a pseudo-intellectual in that I may say something that sounds intelligent, but I actually don't know what it means. So there you go. That's what I apologize to Woody Allen because he at least knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, but I don't. That is something a pseudo-intellectual would do, but that doesn't make you a pseudo-intellectual because a pseudo-intellectual, another component of them generally is they don't correct themselves and they just press on like they think they know. Again, the character Paul is a really great example.
Yes, the Michael Sheen character. Sorry, not Michael Sheen, but the character Paul. Yeah, he's a tool.
Oh, another fun fact.
Go ahead.
For a time after meeting on this movie, Rachel McAdams actually was dating or whatever you want to call it, Paul.
Oh, Michael Sheen. Nice. They were an item, eh?
For a time. It happens in a lot of movies.
Yeah, no, of course. I get it. He's very handsome.
Yeah. And, he's like Gary Oldman, especially in these days, the time this movie came out. Him and Gary Oldman were known as like the actors with 1,000 faces, like playing so many different accents in so many different movies.
Lucian in I think it's Lucian. Yeah, Lucian in Underworld. Yeah, he was great in there.
I like him in the Frost Nixon movie. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, he's done it in other movies, but it's still interesting to see him playing with an American accent.
I could, with both him and Hiddleston, nothing on them, but I could tell. I could like.
Oh, I could tell. Okay. But Hiddleston's another guy who's very known. What's it called? I can't.
Chameleon.
Yes, but there's a specific word where you can just do other voices, especially of other notable people. But Hiddleston's very known. He's done it a million times on late night talk shows.
And again, regardless of they still did a good job with like hiding it. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I could tell.
Oh yeah, I could tell, but yeah, they do it better than most Americans do a British accent.
I mean, name one. I'll be interested to see, like, nothing on what the hey is his name, but nothing on him when he plays Albus Dumbledore. But it will be interesting to see like how he approaches that.
Yeah, I forgot Lea Seydoux was even in this movie. Until she
and that's another that's another like connection to Dune of just like it would have been interesting to see her like her character never interacts with the Emperor, so never mind.
Oh yeah, she's in Dune too.
Exactly. John Lithgow. Sorry, I had to shut that up.
Oh yeah, he's another. This is probably the first or second movie I ever saw her in, and I really didn't know who she was at the time. It was between this and Mission Impossible, whichever one she was in.
Golly, she has a very pretty face. I'm sorry. That's creepy to say, but she's very pretty.
Those are probably the first and second. Well, listeners, take this in the spirit in which it's intended. She's on like my top 3 most attractive women who have a gap between their teeth. That's rarefied air.
Huh. Never noticed. Oh, wait, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I've always noticed, but amongst that grouping, like, she's easily in the top 3, possibly number 1.
This is so offensive. I wonder if they kept it for Death Stranding.
And she's another one of those actresses, a little bit like Scarlett Johansson. She's another one of those actresses who seems to have not aged for a stretch of 25 years.
She has a good workout routine and a good morning session.
Yeah, and that's another thing to know about Woody Allen movies when we encounter others. Woody Allen will go through these phases where he essentially has a actress usually who's like his muse.
Oh yes, yeah.
That he'll use them like 3 or 4 movies in a row, and Scarlett Johansson was one of them.
New York Connection.
Emma Stone was one. Mia Farrow was one. One of his most famous was oh my gosh, Michael Corleone's wife, Diane Keaton. So yeah, if and when we watch more, I'm sure we'll watch more.
Yeah.
You'll look and see. Eventually, you're gonna have to hit one of those because none of his muses are in this particular
phrasing,
movie, but they'll come up.
So one thing I will say as well to continue on with this, I did when I say spoil myself, I did look at like while the movie was trying to. Well, sorry, when I initially tried to start playing it and the website that you sent me initially to, I did look at the description, not a trailer, just description. I didn't look at anything else other than the film when there was ads, and I did look at the description, and he this one writer, he's transported to the 1920s of Paris, and I thought, okay, we're doing like what I don't know how we're doing that, but like, okay, he's gonna stay there the whole time. I loved how it was just like, no, he just goes in a cab of some sort or a vehicle from that era, and then he goes, and that's it, and nothing else other than that. Like, there's no explanation, which is great. And I also the fact that initially I was like, oh, he's not stuck there. And then as the film went on, I accepted, like, no, this needs to happen. Like, he needs to like go back and forth because it's resolving his personal life. And making improvements to his life as well.
Yeah, and you could easily see it as, like, let's just pretend this was like a memoir written by someone. Pretend the protagonist was a real person.
Yep.
You could read it as is, as the story is, and you could easily imagine, oh, this guy was literally spending time in Paris while he was writing this, and he would literally go on walks at night by himself and just think these things through and just meditate the way a person can meditate.
Yep.
And sort of like eventually resolve things. And, he has an epiphany at the end of the third act. I don't know. I always get confused on how that works, but in terminology, but, through being in his mind palace, so to speak, contemplation, I forget if he's speaking. Oh, Hemingway eventually reads the book that he's sharing with them in the past, and Hemingway says, like, yeah, the only flaw is that for some reason the guy doesn't see that his wife is cheating on him.
Oh yeah, that's
even though that's Hemingway telling him in the mind palace, one could surmise, the guy has just been thinking things through in his head, and then that's when he realizes, his epiphany, and then of course he realizes, I should no longer pursue this relationship.
And that was another thing that I was surprised by, kind of similar to what we did when we watched The Smiling Lieutenant, where I was surprised with that one, where we were actually, they did a fake out where it's like, oh, the initial official couple is not the official couple, but it turns out to be the one at the end. Like, I was not seeing that coming. And maybe because I had that on my mind, or we just did that a few days ago. Sorry, spoilers to break the reality of this channel and the other channel. I was just thinking, but it's like I did wonder, like, how is this going to end? Like, I wasn't wanting to get to the end to find out the note, but I was definitely like, okay, I wasn't demanding answers, but I definitely wanted to see what's going to happen with Rachel McAdams' character. How is this all going to be explained? And eventually, I guess, when it was obvious, like, Captain Obvious, she's having an affair. I wasn't expecting an affair, but it's like, oh, okay, we're doing this.
If this story was an episode of Black Mirror, or it was done by Christopher Nolan, he would end up either just staying in his delusion, or if it was Black Mirror, he would stay in the delusion, and then the camera would pull out, and we'd see he's like in a coma in a hospital.
Oh yeah, no. What is it? Jacob's Ladder or whatever that thing's called, where he's like slowly dying on a battlefield or whatever.
Yeah. I haven't seen that, but there is a Black Mirror episode that is almost right on the nose of that concept.
Something like that. Whatever it's like, somebody's dying, but they have like an entire lifetime in their mind, whatever. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh, great episode of TNG. But one of the top 5 episodes of TNG.
And I didn't mind that. I didn't mind, like, it wasn't, I felt like, no, I guess we got to this point where at first I was worried, like, is he gonna, stay in his delusions or whatever you want to call it, if this is really 1920s parents. And then turns out, obviously, with the joke of, that was a great line, by the way, at the end. It's like, I hired a detective to follow him. It's like, you did?
Yeah.
And it's like, what happened to him? I don't know. He's gone missing. And then, cut to, I guess.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Whatever it was, like during, like, high, some French palace or whatever, and the guy's sent off to the. I was like, okay, that was funny. That was really clever. But still, yeah, I was definitely wondering, is he going to have this affair before being a married man? But yeah, it turns out like if both parties are guilty, at least I don't know, he is, because he more is like, oh, this place is great, and he sees Paris as like an actual city. It has, class. Doesn't go too much into like Paris history per se, more like people who were in Paris at the time. Sorry, but he does at least have an appreciation for, I guess, maybe the events that happened in Paris that I guess do pertain to like mostly American, but some French and Spanish.
Shifting gears for a second, like, what do you think about just like the opening 3 minutes where we just see these postcard scenes of Paris?
I loved it. I loved it. So good.
Sort of dovetailing into tech specs and cinematography. Like, and also, I don't know how much you've seen Paris like in other films or if you've been there in real life, either way, or just seen pictures. But seeing like the first 3 minutes, especially, like, what do you think of just the images, the random images of Paris?
Well, for one thing, time capsule. He got Notre Dame before it was burned, so good on you. No, the cinematography was great, natural lighting all around. I think personally, I think this was a very well shot film. This is a very good looking film, at least like what I'm watching it on. The scenes even in the 20s, I don't think they're too overlaid. I don't think they're too like for instance, it's funny because um not fully obviously, but I think this is 2010, so 3 years later, I believe, yeah, I think it was 2013. While it's not F. Scott Fitzgerald, but Baz Luhrmann does do The Great Gatsby, and that's a hyper realized and hyper stylized reality of,
Yeah, almost like Attack of the Clones version of the 1920s.
exactly. There you go. Now, that's not to me like to throw shade at that film.
Yeah, I like that movie, but it's definitely like you're not really there. And it's unfortunately what I really, really don't like about the Wachowski Speed Racer live action movie is that it feels like Attack of the Clones, except with better resolution, but not necessarily better visually.
And again, again, the transition where I thought it was going to be like smoke and or like a rain or something like that, and instead it's like, no, it's still just kind of just people walking around. It's just storefronts, and I'm like, okay, I can see the sets here, but these look very good.
Sets, I feel like there's hardly any.
Okay, I'm just thinking of like when they like go back to the Belle Epoque, excuse me. Like I feel like that was either a set, maybe. I'm not too sure.
Hard to say, but it's probably a lot of them are probably, I'm imagining, real locations with set dressing.
That's okay. Thank you. That's the word I meant to say. Set dressing. Pardon me. With that stuff, yeah, everything looked authentic. I mean, okay. Well, I won't say authentic. Obviously, I can tell it's a movie made from 2010, but the effort was there, so I'll give it that.
Yeah, certainly post year 2000. I think this may possibly be Woody Allen's best looking movie. I haven't seen all of them post year 2000, but I think this may be his best. Some things I learned looking up tech specs on this movie. So, although the film was shot in 35 millimeter, of course, especially in 2010, it was the first time a Woody Allen movie was shot on 35 millimeter, and then where they use the digital intermediate, meaning they scan it digitally, the film, and then they do all their in post, digitally. It was his first time doing it. He kind of wanted to see, what the results would be. In other words, they took the film and then they color timed it, etc., digitally, because he wanted obviously to have that warm look, which is very apparent. This movie's I have it on Blu-ray, and usually nowadays I watch things streaming in HD, 4K, or 4K physical disc. It's rare that I just watch a standard Blu-ray, but for a Blu-ray, this movie looks absolutely fantastic. The warmth and the colors definitely shine through, and in terms of the period of the set dressing, etc., It's so fantastic. But this is one of my laments in Woody Allen's later post 2010 movies, especially like post 2014 and to the end of his output. I think it's a combination of him having even smaller budgets on some of his last films, combo of that,
Okay.
and obvious total reliance on modern digital cameras through and through, that when he does movies that take place in the past, like in the year 2017, I mean, produced in the year 2017, 2018, whatever, they do not look as incredible as this. Like, there is not the same attention to detail. When I watch his latest films, I will absolutely recognize doorknobs and windows that I know are modern times. Like, there's no way it's the 1930s.
I see.
There's not the same level of attention to detail. And even his films in that late period, they just have that digital Marvel CGI look to them. And I hate it. I hate it so much.
I'm assuming, if I may play devil's advocate, I'm assuming it's because it's like all he is able to, like, you know, have as equipment. Like, if it's
budget, and he just has to go with what he has to go with. He can't, let's get analog film. He's not Quentin Tarantino, and he doesn't have the wherewithal of a Quentin Tarantino or a Christopher Nolan or Denis Villeneuve, where it's like, I want these kind of cameras and this kind of film and this kind of no. He's always working on a budget, and especially at the end, I can tell. So it starts to look like the aforementioned. What's the name of the movie? The Fitzgerald, Great Gatsby. Now that has astronomical CGI budget, but still, his later movies had that saccharine digital shot on iPhone kind of look, unfortunately. But this is before that, and this is incredible.
Oh, yeah, well, okay. Again, what he had to work with.
So yeah, I've said most of what I'd like to say about this movie. I don't know if you have any hanging chads, as they say.
Yeah, the hanging chad. Let's see. Well, yeah, I guess to go back to just quickly the prelude, flipping A, like that was. Oh yeah, I remember. I got an idea. He just the similar to the beginning of 2001. These preludes are great. Like, just mood setting. Like, okay, like, sure, you want to call it like iconography and, you know, going through this, just setting the stage. And I assumed. I was wondering, like, I was impressed. I will give him that. Usually people would probably go like, let's go to the Eiffel Tower. I wonder if that was Alexander's Bridge, by the way, that they were on. I don't know. Let's go to the Eiffel Tower. Let's go to the Louvre. Let's go to... they did go down those steps that John Wick, forces himself to go down in the fourth one, by the way. Let's go to the Arc de Cercle, or pardon me, I forget what it's called, but the Arc. Let's go over to, I don't know, some other. But see, actually funny. I think that's what Rachel McAdams' character and Michael Sheen said. That's what they're doing. They're the tourists, and I like Owen Wilson's character because he's the one that actually is at least, you know, trying to be there for the actual city rather than just the iconography. Because I even have this as well, where it's just like, I don't want to be a tourist. I hate being the definition of a tourist. I want to take in the city as it actually is and not live amongst the people and be a local, but definitely take in the local flavor rather than, maybe I just sound like everybody else. I'm sorry, but it's just like, I don't want to just be considered like an ignorant tourist.
Yeah, that's the kind of tourist I am. I'm not a tourist often, but I definitely have traveled in my life and in my vocations.
Of course.
And I was always the type of person, yes, I would go to certain places that are the tourist traps, so to speak. But especially when I used to hang out and live around New York City, I felt like I did the Owen Wilson way, which is I would more often than not just go down to random streets, random neighborhoods, things that are not on anyone's tourist map.
Oh yeah.
And just walk around aimlessly. That's the kind of person I've always been.
Nothing wrong with that.
For the most part.
Oh, and I appreciate as well, Alan, for shooting while in the rain, actually showcasing real rain in a film, which I appreciate it. And then, of course, at the very end when they're on one of the bridges, I don't know which one it is. I was like, oh, well, fair enough. We had to have fake rain at some point, so it was pretty funny to know that was like fake rain.
I was going to say, there's definitely a lot of fake rain, but it looks real. Kind of one of the last things I wanted to say, you reminded me when you were talking about the opening again. Something that's so fascinating to me, and especially with a place like Paris, because you don't get the same thing with a place like New York City or San Francisco or even Tokyo in films, or Hong Kong, which is there are obviously so many films that were shot in Paris over the decades. Like there's too many to name, but some things that stick out in my mind are there's a very famous film from the French New Wave that maybe one day we'll see and discuss. Very famous movie called Breathless from 1960. And there is a very famous episode of classic Doctor Who called City of Death that was shot all around the streets of Paris in 1979. And then there's this movie. And there's so many others besides these, but I'm just going to pick these three. You just see the streets, random streets of Paris, and it is virtually identical in all three of these movies. The only thing that really changes are the cars parked on the street and, some of the signage, like the fonts and, whatever. But it's just the same. And it's so remarkable to me. And I know, there's things like that in London, but if the things aren't dressed right in London, you can definitely tell when it's modern London or 20 years ago or 30 years ago if it's not dressed. But with Paris, you don't really have to dress anything, the exteriors one way or the other. It just looks the same. And it's incredible to me. If you watch those three examples only, you'll just be like, oh my gosh. It does have this traveling in time sensation, except it's the same. Like, the film stock equipment changes, but it just looks like they're shooting in the same place. It's incredible.
Oh yeah, the only point where I was wondering if they were going to bring in anything from modern times. By the way, this thing was so like close to like I'm just happy that we didn't have like a smartphone in there, or at least one of the iPhones of 2010. Like I'm very pleased. I don't think I even saw like a cell phone. Maybe there was, but it's just like it was so like inconsequential. I'm like, dang, I'm glad like that wasn't there.
It's an interesting thing. People mention this a lot in articles and blogs and commentary, how, a downside of post 2000 is that style doesn't radically change, like clothing, music style, etc. Like it's not like the 70s, the 60s, the 80s, the 90s, the 50s, the 40s, where each decade has a very distinct flavor. People often lament how, generally post 2006 to present day, yes, there are differences, but it's usually just the smartphone or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the earpods or the headphones. But a unique thing, a unique upside of this phenomenon, of this homogenization of style, is that with this movie, and because there are no real cell phones involved at all in the story, like if I just showed this to someone who was 20 years or younger, I don't think they'd be able to tell, is this movie 2 years old? Is it 10 years old? Is it 15 years? You can't tell.
Oh, I think I could tell.
It's one of those movies like the Disney animated, the classic ones that are just perennials. Like they will just like timeless. And it is a timeless movie. Because if you didn't know what year it was and they didn't make some references in the story,
except they clearly do
in the script, this could be anything after like 1999 or after. If you discard obviously the production values, But if you discard that, like if you watch this on VHS and you didn't know who these actors were, it could be 1999 to present. Like you have no idea.
Well, what did Wilson's character feed Zelda's Fitzgerald with, like Valium or something like
Yes.
that? Or whatever?
Yes.
That was fun. That was the only part where I'll give it a pass of just like, because usually it's like, oh, he's a time traveler, so he's bringing something back. It was pretty funny that nobody, again, I just assumed it was a thing to overlook. Don't worry, just overlook it. It's fine in this case because it's not really taking, like, it's not concerned about time travel, which is fine.
Well, he's obviously a person of modern day.
That's true.
I mean, whatever that is.
But like people don't react to him when he's in the past, and even when they go back to the Belle Epoque, like they're not like reacting.
Oh yeah, one of the best examples actually is not the Valium, no offense, but
That's fine.
it's when he encounters, I don't remember who they are. He encounters like a writer and a filmmaker who are contemporaries of Hemingway or someone, and he's like, and they're like, "What's your problem?" And he's like, "Well, my problem is, I'm, from the future, and now I'm here, and da 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 da."
Oh yes, this was with Dolly.
Yeah. There was a dolly, and he's talking about
Yeah.
the rhinoceroses, which is something he did in real life a
Of
lot.
course.
But anyway, yeah, he's talking to Dolly, and there's those two other guys.
Yep.
And he's expecting, like, or he's not expecting, but he's wondering what their reaction will be to this profound thing he's saying. And they're just like, yeah, I get it. Makes sense.
Fucking surrealists. That's hilarious. That was a good joke.
Exactly. But yeah, because one would imagine that people in this time, the 1920s, yeah, you just go, hey, I have this thing called Valium, whatever. And they'll be like, yeah, okay, whatever. Because at least romantically, to romanticize the 20s, it's like, yeah, everyone was used to new, different, whatever. And so just be like, yeah, whatever. Like, just open minds.
It would have been funny. It would have been pretty funny had they didn't go for this gag. I think this is like too much product. This is clearly product placement, but this is only just for the gag of, I don't know if it was at this point it was already out, but it would have been funny if he had like a bottle of Coke and it was the old Coke with the Coke in it. So and he's just like, wow, this stuff really did taste different.
And now, real quick, start thinking about your rating. But real quick, this is an actual message to. I'm going to break the fourth wall a little bit, and this is a message for Caleb, the editor. But so, kinds of the things we've been saying about this movie, and I know you've already watched it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to edit this. So you've already seen the movie, Caleb.
And of course, hi, Caleb.
So that Netflix movie that came out a few years ago with Ana de Armas playing Marilyn Monroe. In a way, I see a lot of similarities between that movie, like the premise, not the premise, but the fact that in the Marilyn Monroe biography, while it covers much of her life, most of it focuses on the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s. And, a lot of people panned that movie, really didn't like it. People weren't that into it. But I found it really intriguing for multiple reasons. And one of the reasons is similar to this movie, in which I didn't know how much Marilyn Monroe palled around with other significant people who were her contemporaries in the 30s and 40s, etc. And a lot of that movie, it's not like literal accurate. Like there's definitely some dramatic license in that movie. But what's interesting about it to me, comparing it to this one, is that the Marilyn Monroe movie is this concept of introducing modern audiences to this other world, except the Marilyn Monroe movie is done very surreally. So add that to your list, Caleb, because it's kind of like taking this trip, but in a more surreal kind of way. And so, I'm always talking about my ideas for a fictional, film festival program that I would put together, and I would definitely pair up this movie with that Marilyn Monroe movie. They're so different, but they have this loosely shared DNA.
Was that movie in black and white?
The Marilyn Monroe movie?
Yes.
Parts of it are.
Okay. Now, kind of, I guess similar to Oppenheimer, eh?
Yes.
You know what I guess I appreciate, because I guess it would have worked. I'm not really too sure. I don't know if he's done it before, but it would have been interesting had for the 20s and even further back if there was like a black and white filter in this.
Maybe, but I had to see it because it could come across as really gimmicky.
I was thinking the same thing
and ruin the vibe.
I did think of that before I made the statement of like, oh yeah, this
However,
I do that
for a time where it doesn't work and they don't get overbearing, like with like making the film look old or whatever. But a movie that's been coming up a lot in our recent movie discussions on Best Picture podcast for me, the Grand Budapest Hotel, it jumps around in time like the Oppenheimer movie. But when it jumps around to the different decades, the film looks like the decade, especially in aspect ratio.
Okay.
And it is gimmicky to an extent, but I think it really works in that movie. Like Oppenheimer, when it changes from color to black and white, once you see the whole movie, you realize it helps ground you in when it's taking place. Because, spoiler hint, in Oppenheimer, the black and white scenes are in the future and the color scenes are in the past. But anyway,
present.
Just like that works in Oppenheimer, the screen ratio really works in Grand Budapest because are we in the 30s? Are we in the 60s? Are we in present day? And so, yeah, there we go. And are you ready to rate it?
Let's go. But first, the word from our sponsors.
Sure. As on the Best Picture podcast, this is where it really started, was on Prognosis Negative. Our sponsor, not sponsor, is, of course, Rotten Tomatoes. And according to them, and by the way, this movie was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Art Design, and Best Screenplay.
I see what you did there. So we're previewing this for when we get when you guys get 2010, eh?
Well, I didn't intentionally mean to do that, but yes, one day, 2011,
you sly dog,
2012 will come up on the Best Picture podcast, and we will review this again. But we've reviewed multiple movies on Best Picture podcast and on either Novice Elitist and Prognosis Negative before. So yeah, this is not the first time. But anyway, on the tomato meter with the critics, it is a very solid 93% certified fresh. If you read the critic reviews that are just annotated on Wikipedia, everybody and their sister loved this movie at the time. With the popcorn meter, I said it right. On Popcorn Meter, which is the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, it is a nice 83%. The non-AI consensus is, it may not boast the depth of his classic films, but the sweetly sentimental Midnight in Paris is funny and charming enough to satisfy Woody Allen fans. Okay, that's not the most glowing consensus, but yeah, gets the job done. Let's see, unit of measure. Doses of Valium out of 5. How many doses of Valium out of 5?
Yeah, doses of Valium out of 5. For a film where a character does, okay, like any film, goes through character development and changes by the end, reaffirms, I guess, what he wanted to do in the beginning. He kind of got what he wanted in a way and got out of a potential bad relationship and kind of, learns to appreciate the city around him despite it like kind of, being set in the past instead. But at least I think in the end, it's a little more hopeful because I do like the fact that there might be, I'm not saying, don't worry, I'm not making this like, a friend. I'm just saying like in my head, he'll go back in time again. Or maybe he won't. That's a good point. I don't know if he will or not. But I think because of Sodow's character, he's gonna be able to appreciate Paris a lot more because she's
he's gonna live in the now.
Exactly, and that's the point. Because you're never mind. Yeah, he's not going back to the past.
So I want you to go first. How many doses of Valium out of 5?
I do. Don't worry, I ain't gonna need no Valium after this. I think I'll give this a 4 out of 5 Valiums.
Very nice. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad it was at least a 3 or higher.
Yeah,
because I would hate to fail again trying to get someone introduced to Woody Allen.
See, I figured that as soon as I said like a 1 or 2, that would have broken you. It's like, oh, for flip's sakes.
Oh, that would be terrible.
Yeah.
But you've never scored a movie that low in the podcast we've done before.
Well, not in this podcast, but over in Romulans Bearing Gifts when we did what was
that's not a movie. Oh, that was a movie.
Yeah. Well, you asked us to review it. I said I gave it a 1 or something like that.
I forgot that was a movie.
Yeah, I give it a 2. Now I'm just like I'll be fine. Like you guys made some compelling arguments, so I'd raise it to a 2.
No, it's fine. There's no reason to like Section 31.
I know,
but anyway,
it's a 2.
4 out of 5. That's good. That's good. I am also giving it a 4 out of 5.
There you go.
Think it's a solid movie. It's a great movie. I like it just as a movie. I like it very much as a Woody Allen movie.
One to watch again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised it's been well over 10 years since I saw it last.
Glad you remember that.
Very surprised. But anyway, I'm giving it a solid 4. That being said, though, there are many Woody Allen films that I give a 4.5 or a 5 to. So as much as I like this movie, it does not get into my top 5 of Allen movies. Possibly top 10, maybe, but definitely not in my top 5. I love it. It's great, but there's others that really speak to me even more. However, at the time that this came out and I first saw it, this movie very much spoke to me, circa 2011. But yeah, it's great. And
yeah, stupid question. I know you probably just answered it, but did you see this opening weekend, or at least like when it was?
Oh no, I said earlier in the discussion, I got it when it came out on Blu-ray.
Thank you. Sorry,
it's okay.
Forgot.
Yeah, and actually, after seeing this on Blu-ray and really enjoying it, I think that's what it was, either this movie or Vicky Cristina Barcelona. One or the other. It might have been this one, I think. Because then I decided, you know what? After seeing this, and I had seen 7 or 8 Woody Allen movies before this. I decided after seeing this, I want to start seeing his movies at the theater now. So he came out with a movie a little bit after this called In Rome in Love, or In Rome with Love, or something like that.
That sounds like a Hallmark movie channel movie.
Yeah. That was the first Woody Allen movie I saw theatrically, and then I tried to catch some more after that. So this was the one that pushed me into, I need to start seeing these at the movies.
Nice.
And there you have it. Stay tuned. Never know when a new episode of Prognosis Negative is coming. And I know it's long overdue, but trust me, eventually you will finally get on this feed one day the finale of our first season of 7% Solution. Working on it. It's been recorded, but it needs a little extra love and care before it can go out on the feed. So, closing out the show today, this is Eric.
This is Isaac.
And until next time,
the balcony is yours.
Prognosis Negative.
That's my favorite of all the taglines on my podcasts that we have. I I'm never satisfied with Cut the Tape on Best Picture podcast.
Cut the tape. Do the Anthony Mackie. Cut the check.
Sean thought of both of them, and I go with them because it's primarily his show. Originally, it was I'm All Out of Popcorn.
Telling them all out of bubblegum.
And not Cut the Tape, and That's a Cut. That's what it is. And so and That's a Cut. But I've never been satisfied with either of them, but I've also never been able to come up with a better one.
Yeah.
And I didn't invent The Balcony Is Yours. A guy named Kyle Anderson did. And when he came up with it, I was like, oh, it's a meta joke, especially if you're Gen X. But still, it's the best. It's better than Don't Panic. It's better than May the Wind Always Be at Your Sails. But anyway,